In a small suburb in southern Arkansas, where cotton fields stretch endlessly to the horizon and sunsets paint the low hills crimson, there lived a girl named Emily Carter, 11 years old, petite, with brown hair neatly tied into 2 braids. Her face always carried a shy glow that shimmered like a candle striving to burn in the dark. Emily lived with her mother in a shabby rented apartment on the 3rd floor of an old building designated for hospital staff. Her father, Daniel, had passed away 3 years earlier in a construction accident while working on a bridge. Since then, her mother, Sarah Carter, a nurse aide at St. Mary's Hospital, had become the sole breadwinner for their small family. Before we continue following Emily's extraordinary journey, if you too believe that a person's true worth lies not in appearance or background, but in resilience and a heart that never stops pursuing dreams, then please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so together we can spread inspiring stories like this to even more people. And now, let's return to the story, where the most unexpected moments are still waiting ahead. Every evening after school, Emily would accompany her mother to the hospital. Not because she wanted to, but simply because there was no one to look after her at home. Her mother would say, "Just sit quietly in the waiting room corner, read your books, do your homework. I'll take you home after my shift." The hospital's small waiting room was like a miniature world that Emily had grown accustomed to. The steady beeping of respirators in the distance, the sound of gurney wheels rolling across the tiled floors, the soft conversations between nurses and patients, and sometimes muffled cries or whispered prayers in the night. But to Emily, it all formed a familiar symphony. She carried with her an old cassette player, the last birthday gift her father had given her before his death. Each time she played it, the old melodies would transport her away from the noisy hospital and back to the warm kitchen of years past, where her mother once sang lullabies beside the worn wooden dining table. Her mother's voice used to rise. In old songs, "Somewhere Over the Rainbow, What a Wonderful World," or sometimes just simple country lullabies filled with affection. Those were the rare, peaceful days Emily always kept tucked away in her memory. Though they lived with little, Sarah Carter always taught her daughter, "Music is a gift, Emily. It doesn't cost money to have it, but it can warm even the coldest hearts." And Emily believed that. She began to hum softly while waiting for her mother, sometimes singing so quietly that only she could hear. Her tender voice was as clear as a stream flowing through the midnight forest. Some late nights, the elderly security guard, Mr. Milton, would pass by during his rounds, pausing to listen to the little girl sing. He smiled gently. "Sweetheart, your voice reminds me of my wife back in the day. She used to sing every night when I came home late from work." Then he would pat her shoulder and continue his patrol under the dim lights. That was Emily's world. Her mother, the hospital, the old songs, and the quiet little dreams hidden inside her heart. Then one morning in April, as the spring breeze carried the light scent of wildflowers, an announcement posted at the hospital reception made Emily's small heart flutter. Fundraising performance for pediatric cancer patients. All staff, patients, and families are welcome to participate and showcase their talents. Her mother skimmed through it and gently shook her head. "It's probably just some doctors or nurses performing for fun, sweetheart." But inside Emily, a faint glimmer of hope began to emerge. For the first time, she thought, "Could I sing? Here in front of everyone. Maybe my song will make someone smile." In the days that followed, the thought of the performance kept creeping into the mind of the 11-year-old girl. While sitting in her familiar corner of the waiting room, while listening to her mother talk to patients, or even in her dreams, Emily saw herself standing in the hospital lobby, singing under countless gazes. But soon, anxiety began to overwhelm her. Would people laugh at her childish voice? Would the busy doctors and nurses even have time to listen? She was used to being just a tiny shadow in this vast hospital, unnoticed, unseen. It wasn't until one night, after her mother's shift, as the two of them sat eating simple instant noodles in their tiny kitchen, that Emily finally confided, "Mom, I've been thinking maybe I could join the fundraiser performance. Sarah paused, looking at her daughter. The mother's gentle eyes sparkled with surprise and emotion. You really want to try? Yes. I want to sing somewhere. Over the rainbow, like you used to sing to me. Maybe someone will feel a little better when they hear it. Sarah gently squeezed her daughter's small hand, her voice warm and steady. Sweetheart, your father would be so proud. And so am I. If you want to sing, I'll be right there by your side. The final registration day approached. While waiting for her mother to finish processing an emergency patient's paperwork, Emily timidly approached the reception desk where the performer's sign-up sheet was placed. Several names were already written down. Head nurse Susan would play the piano. Dr. Jenkins would perform a guitar piece. 2 nurses would sing a duet. Her hand trembled as she held the pen. Carefully she wrote, Emily Carter, somewhere over the rainbow, a cappella. After signing her name, she quickly returned to the waiting room corner, her heart pounding wildly. But at that moment, she felt she had just overcome something enormous. The day of the performance finally arrived. St. Mary's Hospital's main lobby was decorated simply but warmly. A few clusters of balloons, small banners printed with smiling, children's faces, and neatly arranged rows of chairs for patients and their families. The young cancer patients, with bald heads and eyes sparkling with hope, sat in the front rows alongside nurses and relatives. Many elderly patients were wheeled in. Some came with canes. A few doctors who had just finished surgeries also stopped by. Sarah sat in the third row, her hands clasped, eyes fixed on the makeshift wooden stage set up in the center of the large lobby. The performances began one after another. The piano rang from Nurse Susan's skilled fingers. Dr. Jenkins' gentle guitar tune made the entire room sway softly. Everyone laughed, clapped rhythmically after each act. Then the host and the head of the pediatric department, Dr. Patterson, stepped up to the microphone, smiling. And now we have a very special performance from our youngest performer tonight. Emily Carter will sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. The hall suddenly fell silent. Many people looked around curiously. Some whispered, Isn't that the little girl who always sits in the waiting room? Oh, that's her. I often see her reading while waiting for her mom's shift. Emily slowly walked to the center of the lobby. Her light blue cotton dress, freshly washed and dried by her mother the night before, swayed slightly as she walked. Her worn-out shoes made soft sounds against the tiled floor. There were no bright lights, no background music, only the beeping of monitors and the soft ringing of nurse call bells in the distance. Emily took a deep breath. Her eyes searched and found her mother's encouraging gaze. Then she gently began to sing, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, way up high. At first her voice quivered slightly, but after the first few lines, it grew stronger. Her clear, pure voice echoed throughout the hospital lobby, like a cool breeze on a hot summer afternoon. In the back row, Mr. Milton, the elderly security guard, nodded softly, eyes glistening. A young nurse covered her mouth, hiding both a smile and tears. Many elderly patients leaned lightly on their loved ones, sighing as if releasing their weariness. That tender voice was more than just a song. It was like a comforting hand, a thin thread of hope weaving into the hearts of those struggling with illness, loneliness, and fear. Emily sang the entire song in complete stillness. No one clapped right away, not because they didn't enjoy it, but because everyone seemed to be drawn into a deeply moving emotional space, one that only pure music could reach. A few seconds after the final note faded, the silence in the hospital lobby lingered, as if everyone was reluctant to leave the pure moment that had just passed. Then, from the middle row, a round of applause rang out, slow, full of reverence. And now was Mr. Milton, the elderly security guard in his faded uniform, eyes glistening behind thick glasses. He stood up, clapping steadily, his gaze fixed on the petite girl standing in the center of the lobby. Like a wave spreading out, more applause followed. Soon, the entire room was filled with warm clapping. Some elderly patients nodded, others gently patted their loved ones' shoulders, as if sharing the special feeling the little girl had just evoked. Sarah, Emily's mother, couldn't hold back the tears rolling down her cheeks. Her heart swelled with pride and emotion. Her little daughter, who had quietly waited for her shift to end every day, was now the one silencing and awakening the hospital lobby with her own song. As Emily bowed to the audience, her face carried a mixture of shyness, relief, and a joy too deep for words. For the first time in her life, she felt what it was like to stand on a stage. Though it was only a small hospital lobby, to her, it was the whole world. The performance ended, and people gradually returned to their daily hospital routines. Sarah quickly rushed forward to tightly hug her daughter. "You did so well, Emily. So well." Her voice trembled. "Mom, do you think they really liked it?" The little girl looked up with innocent eyes and asked softly. Sarah smiled and nodded firmly. "Not only did they like it, sweetheart, you touched their hearts." As the mother and daughter were about to leave the lobby, a deep, warm male voice called from behind. "Excuse me, is this Emily Carter?" They turned around. In front of them stood a middle-aged man with graying hair, wearing a white coat with a small badge that read, "Dr. Leonard Whitaker, Director of Rehabilitation and Music Therapy Department." Dr. Whitaker offered a gentle smile. "Little one, you know, your singing tonight wasn't just beautiful, it was something much more. In my department, we have many patients, people who battle pain and despair every day. And sometimes, music is the only thing left that can comfort them. A voice like yours is exactly that." He paused briefly, then continued, his eyes thoughtful. "Our hospital has a partnership with the Little Rock Regional Institute of Music Therapy. They're currently looking for young talents with natural gifts to join a free training program at the end of this summer. It's not as grand as the big music schools, but it's a place to nurture hearts that know how to heal through music. If you and your mother agree, I'd be happy to recommend you." Sarah froze, almost unable to believe what she was hearing. "Dr. Voice, but I'm sure there are many others better than Emily." Dr. Whitaker raised his hand gently to interrupt. "Ms. Sarah, many students may sing higher, louder, but what Emily possesses is rare. Sincerity and true emotion. Those cannot be taught." Emily stood silent for a moment. She nervously looked at her mother. Sarah leaned down, squeezing her daughter's hand tightly. "The decision is yours, Emily." The girl looked straight into her mother's eyes, and for the first time, though still anxious, she nodded softly. I want to try." Dr. Whitaker smiled warmly. "Excellent, little one. I'll take care of all the arrangements. We'll be seeing each other again very soon." On their way home, mother and daughter walked side by side under the dim yellow streetlights along the narrow road leading back to their old apartment. The chirping of insects filled the gentle night air. Sarah softly spoke, her voice like a whisper. "In the breeze, you know, Emily, sometimes it's the simplest things that open the biggest doors in life." Emily smiled, leaning into her mother's arm. "I'm not afraid anymore, Mom." And in her heart, a fragile hope had just ignited, like the tiny stars twinkling in the Arkansas night sky. Emily had never imagined she would set foot in a real music class. Yet, on that summer morning, as the soft sunlight streamed through the trees lining the small road leading to the Little Rock Institute of Music Therapy, the 11-year-old girl stood before the curved black iron gate, her heart pounding wildly. Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand tightly. She was just as nervous. Though she had managed to save enough money to buy Emily a simple beige dress and a pair of modest ballet flats, seeing the other children, their hair neatly combed, dressed in crisp white shirts and shiny leather shoes, still made her feel a bit disheartened. But Emily only gazed at the stately old building ahead, her eyes sparkling. This would be her new world for the summer. Classes were held in a large room on the second floor, with tall windows overlooking a small garden. Pots of lavender on the windowsills emitted a light, soothing fragrance. The instructor was Mr. Howard, an elderly man, thin in stature, but with a constant smile on his face and a head of fluffy white hair like clouds. His deep, warm voice resonated throughout the room yet remained gentle. "Welcome to the summer of music therapy," he said, as though telling a fairy tale. "Here, we don't compete to see who can sing louder or higher. We learn how to use music to touch pain, to soothe wounds, both our own and others." Emily listened to every word. This was unlike any class she had ever known. In the first days, she struggled to keep up. Most of the other students had studied music from a young age, knew how to read sheet music, and mastered technical nuances. But Emily, she had never even read a musical note. During rhythm exercises, she often stumbled. When Mr. Howard explained beats, pitch, and breath control, Emily felt lost in a strange world. At times, she blushed from forgetting the lyrics midway, while soft giggles rose from a few students behind her. Yet each afternoon, after class ended, Emily would stay behind for a few minutes. Mr. Howard always seemed to be waiting. "Don't get discouraged, Emily," he encouraged. "Technique can be learned, but the emotion you possess, many spend their whole lives without ever reaching it." Then he would pull out an old guitar from the corner of the room, strumming a few simple chords, motioning for Emily to sing along. The first song was always "You Are My Sunshine," the tune her mother often sang to her on rainy nights. Emily's tender voice would rise, and with each session, it was as if something slowly opened within her soul. One afternoon after class, Mr. Howard suddenly asked, "Have you ever heard of the healing effect of music, Emily?" The girl shook her head, eyes full of curiosity. Sometimes patients are in such pain that they no longer wish to speak, but when a gentle melody is played, their bodies relax and their spirits find peace. That is the miracle music can bring. He smiled, his eyes sparkling under the afternoon sun. "And I believe you have the ability to do that." Weeks passed, and Emily gradually grew more confident. Occasionally, during practice sessions with trial patients, elderly people with memory loss, or children with chronic illnesses, Emily was allowed to stand before them and sing. The first time she sang "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" in the geriatric therapy room, an elderly woman with silver hair, who had hardly spoken, suddenly grasped her granddaughter's hand, tears quietly streaming down her face. In that moment, Emily fully understood Mr. Howard's words. It's not the song that heals people. It's the heart you place into the song. Each evening back in her small dorm room, Emily would open a notebook her mother had bought from a second-hand store. In it, she began writing her first reflections on music. Today, the old woman smiled. Music truly can reach the deepest parts of the human soul. That petite 11-year-old girl, once sitting quietly in a small hospital waiting room, was now learning how to transform her simple singing into a bridge connecting wounded hearts. And ahead of her, an even greater door was waiting to be opened. Summer passed more quickly than Emily had imagined. The initial days of anxiety and uncertainty had now given way to familiarity and warmth. She no longer trembled when standing before the class, no longer fumbled while strumming the first chords. And most importantly, she had come to understand why she wanted to sing. Then one day in late August, Mr. Howard announced, "Next week will be our end-of-course performance. We'll be inviting doctors, patients, families, and even the Academy Board to attend. This isn't a competition, but a chance for each of you to share your journey through music." Emily's heart raced. This would be her first time on a real stage, not just a hospital lobby, not just a few familiar nurses, but many strangers and scrutinizing eyes. Yet, strangely, she didn't feel afraid this time. Instead, there was a peculiar excitement, as if she was about to tell the story she had long kept within. That evening, when she called home, Sarah beamed on the other end of the line. "I'll come up to see you. I've already arranged for leave. Friday's night bus as usual." Emily smiled, her heart swelling with warmth. On every step of her journey, whether through hardship or happiness, her mother was always by her side. The final performance day arrived. The Academy's small auditorium glowed warmly under the yellow lights. Every guest seat was filled, Doctors from St. Mary's Hospital, patients who had undergone music therapy, and teachers and parents from far away. Sarah sat in the third row, gently holding a handkerchief embroidered with Emily that she had painstakingly sewn on a rainy night last year. Her eyes sparkled with a mix of nervousness and pride. One by one, the students performed. Masterful piano pieces, soaring vocals, and complex ensembles that drew waves of applause from the audience. Then it was Emily's turn. The host announced, "Please welcome Emily Carter, our youngest student this year, performing You Are My Sunshine." It was still that simple song. No elaborate accompaniment, just the small guitar Mr. Howard had lent her, and her pure voice. Emily stepped forward. Under the lights, she took a deep breath, her small hands resting on the guitar strings. Her eyes swept across the room and paused where her mother sat, her encouraging, warm gaze, just like always. And then her voice rose, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." Her voice was gentle yet steady, without trembling, without hesitation. Every word, every melody carried the many days waiting for her mother's shift to end at the hospital, the lonely nights hugging her old radio, the times she trembled under her classmates' laughter, all transformed into a sparkling light spreading throughout the room. Many in the audience had heard that song hundreds of times in their lives. But tonight it rang out differently, simple, pure, and full of genuine emotion. In the guest section, Dr. Whitaker silently nodded with satisfaction. A few nurses from St. Mary's wiped away tears. An elderly couple held hands tightly. And Sarah, her hands covering her mouth, couldn't hold back the steady stream of tears, not from worry this time, but from pure happiness. As Emily sang the final line, "Please don't take my sunshine away," the auditorium fell silent for a few seconds before erupting into thunderous applause, like waves crashing ashore. Emily bowed, her face beaming with a radiant smile she had never shown before. After the performance, as mother and daughter prepared to leave, Mr. Howard and Dr. Whitaker approached them. "You did wonderfully, Emily," Mr. Howard said, his eyes kind. Dr. Whitaker added, "The Academy Board met right after the performance. They would like to invite you to join the official Young Talent program this fall. A full scholarship, of course, if you accept." Sarah was so overwhelmed she couldn't speak. Emily, after a brief moment of astonishment, turned to her mother. Sarah smiled and nodded gently. I would love to," Emily whispered, her voice full of emotion. Years later, in a small television interview, the host asked Emily Carter, now a well-known singer and music therapist in several hospitals, "What was the biggest turning point in your journey?" Emily smiled, her gaze drifting off as if returning to those distant days. "It was the first time I sang in St. Mary's hospital lobby. Amidst the beeping machines, amidst the weary eyes, I realized just one sincere song could warm someone's dark day. And from that moment I knew I was born to sing, not for praise, but to comfort." Thus, Emily Carter's story came to a close, from a tiny hospital waiting room to a radiant stage, from quiet singing to a voice that touched countless hearts. If this story has moved you in any way, please share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to help us preserve these beautiful moments amidst the rush of daily life. See you again in the next journey.